Hi, my name is Reham and I'll be presenting the paper, The Influence of Decaying the Representation of Older Social Media Content on Simulated Hiring Decisions. This paper was completed as part of my PhD thesis under the supervision of Prof. Sonia Chiasson at Carleton University, Ottawa, Canada. Paulina Chametka is also a co-author of this work. So imagine that you've posted some of this content or even a more sensitive one on your social media profile. And a few years from now, a manager was deciding whether to hire you. They looked up your profile and they decided not to hire you after looking at this content. So while there are benefits to online sharing and virtual interactions with friends, there can also be negative consequences that might compromise individuals' futures. So the literature shows that employers largely use social media as a way to do unofficial background checks. And this use has resulted in rejection decisions for many job candidates, but also in firing current employees. And while users might be concerned about their privacy protection strategies are limited, and the research community recommends more usable mechanisms that require less user engagement. One approach is to use privacy representations, and I will provide examples in the next 3 slides. So in this related work from 2013, the user could pick settings when posting images for future audiences. And this setting would only apply to the image, not the surrounding text. In 2015, Novotny proposed an approach to help users dissociate from their past content. This approach gradually decays social media content as time progresses. As seen on the screenshot, Novotny's prototype used a horizontal timeline, and images from older years appeared smaller in size as users scrolled. In our earlier study, we tested several different decay representations. Among them, we found shrinking to be most successful. With shrinking, as shown on the slide, all content of a post automatically becomes smaller as it gets older. So that includes the image, its caption, the comments, and so on. Our users found shrinking most intuitive in representing the metaphor of decayed memories. For our current study, we evaluate the use of shrinking in context. We decided to test the effect of shrinking social media content in the context of a simulated hiring decision where managers see a candidate's profile before making a hiring decision. We set the following 4 research questions. First, how does decaying a candidate's online social network profile influence managers' hiring decisions? Second, does decaying online social network profile help one gender more than the other in a hiring context? Third, how do managers' demographics such as gender and age influence their hiring decisions? And finally, how do online social networks and online reputation influence managers' real-life hiring decisions? We designed a 3x2 between subject Mechanical Turk survey where we showed real managers' fictitious Facebook profiles for job candidates. Positive, neutral, and negative content was interspersed throughout the profile, and our study scenario assumed managers were deciding whether to hire the candidate or not. We had the representation type and gender of candidate as our independent variables. To clarify the representation type, we had an original profile where posts were displayed in full size, a decayed profile where posts were gradually getting smaller, and just to note, this is a partial screenshot and the prototypes had more posts on the timeline. And finally, a control profile which basically had no posts on it. We also varied the gender of the candidate since we wanted to see if it had an effect. And in total, we had 360 valid responses. So next, I clarify the questionnaire categories briefly and also explain or clarify when participants saw the profile specific to their study condition. So first, we asked about managers' general perceptions. So these readings questions gauged what's desirable to our managers in a candidate. Then we presented to the managers the candidate profile specific to their study condition as a video. And the next category was specific to the candidate's profile they saw. So we asked managers to decide whether to hire the candidate and followed up with an open-ended question to better understand what influenced their decision. Then we followed up with questions to evaluate the candidate against the same criteria from the ratings category. These criteria were evaluation of the candidate's personality traits, the candidate's positive aspects of online reputation, and the candidate's negative aspects of online reputation. In the last category, we wanted managers to reflect on their real-life practices. So this category probed various aspects, such as the ones shown on the slide, and also had an open-ended question to explore how online reputation influences their hiring decisions in real life. We used a statistical analysis to explore whether the use of decay representations impacted managers' hiring decision and their evaluation of the candidate as well. And we also used inductive content analysis to look for themes in the open-ended questions of the questionnaire. In the interest of time, I'll present results related to our first and fourth research questions, but please refer to the paper for more details and also for results of the other two research questions. So the control and decayed representations most positively influenced managers' hiring decision of the candidates, followed by the original representation. We also found a significant effect of the representation type on all of our dependent variables assessing the candidate. So compared to the original and control representations, managers who saw the decayed representation appreciated the candidate's personal traits and also saw positive aspects of their online reputation. Managers who saw that control representation discounted the candidate's aspects of online reputation that could be perceived as negative. Next, I clarify results from the open-ended question. So this table shows themes or impressions that emerged from content analysis, and these themes are shown here on the header, and on the left we have 4 of our 6 study conditions. In terms of color, red means a negative impression and teal means a positive impression, and the color density refers to the popularity of each impression. So, for example, in the decayed condition, managers inferred positive traits of the candidate. But on the other hand, we see that managers in the original condition saw unprofessionalism on the profiles. And while this was also observed in the decayed condition, the popularity of this answer was higher in the original condition. The control conditions had different themes, but overall participants were neutral. So managers did not infer positive traits, but on the other hand, they didn't have enough information to make a judgment and also started to make assumptions about the users since there was no content, basically. In terms of results of our fourth research question, we found that online social network content is influential in our managers' real-life practices. And 84% of our managers would look up their job candidate online. Our managers also check the various social media profiles for their job candidates, and the number of managers checking Facebook in particular was high. LinkedIn came as a distant second, followed by Instagram and Twitter. So coming to our discussion, our results show that managers are interested in more than a professional context. So while job candidates might actively update their professional profiles, managers are interested in profiles that candidates are less likely to actively manage. Our managers also reported that only more recent activities or online activities within 5 years are relevant in their hiring decision. However, our results indicate that posts dating 11 years ago were still relevant in their assessment. We also saw how the type of content on the profile significantly influenced their decisions. So consistent with previous research, we found that online reputation continues to inform hiring decisions today. The decaying and control representations led to significantly more positive hiring decisions than the original representation. And hiding content might seem as the best option when online reputation has content that could be perceived as negative. However, it gave room for worrisome and potentially wrong assumptions, which may sway managers from their decisions or lead to misjudgment. Given all this, the question remains: how can we eliminate negative consequences that might result from unintended social media data availability? Or in other words, how can we empower users with tools that require their minimal engagement? So compared to hiding or showing the original content, managers who saw the decayed content gave the candidate the benefit of the doubt. We suggest that decaying representations can be used for online reputation management. Also, users are unlikely to manage their online privacy or online reputation because they lack usable solutions. Therefore, decaying would provide a path of least resistance to users, since these representations require minimal user engagement. In terms of limitations, we acknowledge that biases may exist within crowdsourced data, since our managers were comfortable using online platforms, so results are not necessarily representative of the entire population. Also, our study scenario and the use of fictitious candidates might have been disconnected from a real employment context for our managers, and results might differ in real-life interviews where managers might form a connection with their candidates. Future work could explore the social acceptability of decaying representations. For example, how these representations would be perceived when applied to a user's own data, and also their influence on interpersonal relationships among users. In summary, we saw that online reputation continues to influence its owner. Managers are actively looking at candidates' profiles in their hiring process, and online content can influence their hiring decision regardless of the candidate's qualifications. We also saw that decaying representations performed reasonably well. More specifically, the shrinking representation on a job candidate profile led managers to appreciate the positive content more and focus less on past negative online behavior. Based on these findings, we recommended that these representations could be used for online reputation management. Thank you so much for listening, and please refer to the full paper for more details. And also, please do not hesitate to contact me or any of the co-authors if you have any questions. Thank you.